Alrighty, today is Monday, September 29th. We'll probably actually post this on Tuesday, September 30th. But today we have our good friend Ohaji from Simple Black Theory. Um,
Yo.
been following your channel for a couple weeks now. Absolutely love the stuff that you're doing. What inspired you to create the channel? Why? Like, how long have you been doing this? And like, where do you see the future going with your channel?
No, honestly, that's a great first question. I really do appreciate that question. To be honest, what first got me going is originally I was doing social justice content because I'm also an activist and I'm part of an organization called the Nation of Black Liberation. And I've been focused on what's happening socially. And then when the Kamala Harris, Donald Trump fiasco was happening, it was just seeing the misinformation happening so rapidly and understanding that a lot of people are getting their education or even their news from social media and seeing the right just progress with their lies and misinformation, which helped Donald Trump in some ways, which is not the ultimate reason why he made it to office, but it was one of the reasons why he made it to office. It was just like one of the reasons this is like, okay, it's time to take this up a notch and time to show this misinformation because it's so easy to what's what I'm looking for to engulf misinformation without realizing it's misinformation. So I just started to do that a lot more, doing more research on there. And then you realize that anything you talk about is political, no matter what it is. So realizing that everything is politics, it's just inherently impossible for me not to talk about politics. And I've actually been doing this for almost probably it's about to be 2 years now, since I got into it. But the goal is really to just push it further to that. I'm a type of individual who wants to change the mindset of what it looks like for politicians or what it looks like for a political commentator. Like usually most political commentators are like a white guy who smiles, blonde hair, you get what I'm saying? So it's hard to see people like you and I in that standpoint, which is why we see Zoran Mamdani getting so much flack for being, you feel me, someone who's who has Middle Eastern heritage or is even from Africa. You get what I'm saying? So a lot of people are against that idea. So honestly, it's just it's crazy to be in this position. But I do see like when it comes to political atmosphere, it's gonna get crazier. If we think it's crazy now, it's
Yeah.
gonna get even crazier. The left is not even known for doing political violence, and we're seeing an uptick in political violence in the left side. And it's just only gonna get crazier and crazier as time progresses, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, with Donald Trump's rhetoric, it's very hard because the expectation is for the left to tone it down while the right continues to have like these, continues to see this uptick in their violent rhetoric, or their violence just in general and their violent rhetoric. And you even saw after the Charlie Kirk assassination, we saw that Donald Trump went on Fox News and refused to tone down the violence or tone down the rhetoric. He said, the left is the one, it's the left wing lunatics that are causing all of the violence, which is not true. If you look at every single study from the ADL, from anything else, like you see that it's constantly been right wing extremism, right wing violence. And, now we have this one individual situation in the Charlie Kirk assassination, and all of a sudden it's just been blown up. And that's the first time that they've had anything to actually be able to grasp onto and say, like, oh, the left is going and attacking. So I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that. Like where do you see that like maybe after the midterms things start to calm down? Because we're only 9 months into the Trump administration. I know it feels like it's been already a few years, but do you feel like after the midterms, maybe we start to see like when the left possibly have when Democrats possibly have the House back, do you see that there's the possibility of things starting to tone down a little bit?
Oh, that's a good question. First, I want to say about the shooting because you point out a good point of them trying to push that the left wing lunatics and stuff. It just only shows that the right kind of pick and choose the type of rhetoric they want to use. Originally, they'll sit here and tell you that guns don't kill people; it's people that kill people. But now they're telling you that words are what's causing people to die. Now, calling ICE fascist is now what's causing people to die, but guns aren't. So it's just a funny thing to notice that. But your question about if after the midterms will things tone down, Honestly, I think it's going to be even crazier. We know that historically, when it comes to the president, when it comes to the midterms, the party that's the president not a part of usually wins the midterm. So there's a good chance that Democrats may win this midterm. We even see that Arizona actually had a special election, and they actually elected their first Hispanic House representative, which is a great thing. But I don't think it's going to be a downpour. What I'm trying to say is I don't think we're going to see a downness of political rhetoric being radical or the violence some sort. I think we're going to see even more of that only because before the election happens, Donald Trump is going to try to push some of his things now before the election happens. Because once Democrats take over, it's going to be hard for him to push a lot of things. So right now, he's going to try to push as much as possible. That's why the one big beautiful bill came a lot faster than it should be, and that's why they're what's the word I'm looking for? They're trying to shut down the government because the Democrats are trying to reverse the big beautiful bill. Because if the Democrats reverse the big beautiful bill, it's going to be hard for them to regain what they tried to do before because the House and the Senate is going to belong to the Democrats. And once the House and Senate belongs to the Democrats, Donald Trump's rhetoric is going to get even higher. The right's going to get even more pissed. And we know that the right has more money. I mean, we're going to talk about Jimmy Kimmel and all that. So we know that the right has more money. Republicans has more money. So they're going to push social media. They're going to push the news. They're going to push the idea that the left is trying to undo what Donald Trump is doing. And then when the election happens, they're going to push that Donald Trump wasn't able to do what he wanted to do because Democrats end up stopping it during the midterms. So I honestly think it's just going to be harsher rhetoric coming right after this, if this makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's what's insane to me, and I think very difficult for me to grasp, is that the Republicans have the House, the Senate, the White House, and then they also have the Supreme Court. And somehow it feels like Donald Trump is continuing to blame Democrats. And I've never seen anybody try to completely push all of the responsibility on the people that aren't in power. I mean, he is completely in power, and it's just for some reason he's able to blame it on someone else.
Right.
Do you do you think that the Republicans, like after the maybe after the midterms, start to kind of shift away from Donald Trump? Because, if you've seen, and I'm sure you've probably seen this in the past, but like a lot of the MAGA Republicans that Trump pushed or endorsed originally, like before the 2024 election, did not fare well in the general election. Maybe they made it past the primaries, but like in the general election, they ended up losing a lot. And that was because like Donald Trump in himself is like an enigma, right? Like when he's in the election, people show up, but when he's not part of that election, people aren't showing up. Do you think that the Republican Party starts to kind of take a step back from Donald Trump?
Yeah, for sure. We know that during the midterms, midterms, it's the middle before the presidential election. I honestly do think that Republicans are going to shift away from Donald Trump, especially closer to the presidential election, only because Republicans have to answer all the problems that we have now when it comes to this. And anyone tied to Donald Trump is going to have to answer these questions. And these Republicans, Democrats as well, it's politics in general. When it comes down to trying to win an election, you're going to have to downplay whoever was your predecessor or the person you was with originally. So we're gonna see people like who am I looking for? I don't think RFK is gonna be running for president, but Mark Rubio. He's gonna have some hateful rhetoric on Donald Trump when he's gonna run for presidency. Ted Cruz, he's gonna have hateful rhetoric. We already heard them had hateful rhetoric for Donald Trump. Even JD Vance, I kind of see him at one point when he runs for president, he's gonna have to downturn Donald Trump. And the main reason for this is because Kamala Harris didn't do that. Kamala Harris kind of doubled down on what Joe Biden did, which kind of shot her in the foot. A lot of things shot her in the foot, to be honest. But that was just one of the reasons why she got shot in the foot. And the Republicans, ran that up. So when we came to this presidential in 2028, we're going to see more Republicans gear away from Donald Trump and now try to push their rhetoric because they're going to realize that the MAGA movement is dying. And we're kind of seeing that now. I believe that yesterday they had the polls for Donald Trump's approval, and it's at 10% disapproval rating for Republicans. And it's never been at double digits for Republicans when it came to Donald Trump. So it's kind of scary to see the Republicans already gearing away from him, to be honest.
Yeah, that I mean, you're 100% right on that. I think that like he has been very unpopular, and it's what's been also kind of fascinating to me is like especially seeing over the past few months he said like I told you guys there was going to be tariffs and like people voted for this and like I told you that there was going to be a little bit of pain beforehand, like expect there to be a little bit of a pain before there's prosperity. I'm like, I don't know. It's just how do we get to the prosperity if he continues to play this game with tariffs where he puts them on and then he retracts them or he puts a 90-day pause on them and then he continues them and then he all of a sudden says, okay, no, I'm putting on another pause or I'm, the 90 deals in 90 days thing all of a sudden went from 90 deals to 90 days to a concept of a deal with no official like anything in writing. So so it's like I mean like where what do you think I mean I have been having difficulty trying to figure out what Donald Trump's next move is because he's so erratic. Like usually like with Joe Biden, you kind of knew what was coming next. Like it was pretty consistent. And I mean, even with Trump's first administration, it was a lot. I felt like Trump's administration compared to this administration seem like a normal administration, which is crazy to say. But like this year, this administration in the past, like not, I mean, like I said, it feels like he's been in office for over like 3 years now, and
Yeah.
it's only been 9 months, right? Like we've had Signalgate, where Pete Hegseth posted a strike on the Houthis in Yemen in a group chat and added a journalist from the Atlantic. We saw him blame a plane crash on DEI literally before they even recovered any of the bodies. He's implemented these 90-day tariffs. He said that the Epstein files don't exist, and then went from they don't exist to saying it's an Obama and Biden hoax. And like now he's talking about the Amelia Earhart files and like releasing that. And then now he has RFK as his Secretary of Health or Health Secretary, and he's having him go in. I mean, measles literally was effectively eradicated in the early 2000s, and now we're having outbreaks of measles in Georgia, in Texas, all throughout the United States.
Yeah.
Like where? My
All
question is,
that in 9 months. All that in 9 months that you just said. Like you said, all that in 9 months. It
and there's
sounds like over
more.
a year.
And alligator, I didn't even mention alligator Alcatraz. Like I
I
just,
mean, the bombing of boats, of cartel boats, like
oh, exactly. Like, I mean, it's just like one thing after another. There's just so he released a meme coin and then a Bible and like a cologne and a wine. And I'm like, I mean, like, in your opinion, what do you think is the next big thing? Like, what should we expect over the next few months? Like, because I feel like do you think the Epstein, well, actually, the real question is, do you think the Epstein files are released, or do you think that he finds another thing to kind of deflect?
I want to answer both of those because those are really good questions. For the Epstein, he's gonna deflect, but once midterms happening, it's gonna be harder for him to deflect because we already know that a few Republicans want it out. We know that most Democrats want it out. Although we have some tug weight from both sides, I do think the Epstein files is going to be inevitable. If it's not going to happen in this administration, it's going to happen in the next administration. Because I definitely don't think Republicans are going to be winning this administration. Depend if Donald Trump doesn't change what he's doing, which goes into the next question. What is Donald Trump trying to do? What do we expect for the next couple of years? We know that America is turning 250 years old next year, bicentennial. And this is really big because there's a theory stating that most countries don't last 250 years. They usually die off 250 years and someone else rules over. So us reaching 250 years is pretty good. And we're seeing Donald Trump trying to push more right-wing rhetoric, more white supremacist, white nationalist, Christian nationalist rhetoric. And the reason being is because since we're hitting 250 years old, he wants to do like the restart. He wants to create the golden age of America and show that the right-wing way is the best way. This is why we're seeing him attack judges. This is why we're seeing him attack FBI directors. This is why we're seeing him attack lawyers. He's trying to attack the people that determines the law, and he's also trying to attack the institutions that give us the ability to even challenge the things he's saying. So we're going to see more of that. Despite I even expect him to even not listen to Congress. Congress is gonna say not to do anything. He's gonna say fuck that. We seen him does that, and for some reason he gets away with these things. I mean, in the history books, they're gonna tear this man to shreds. But historically, we're living in this era, and we've seen that he's getting away with things. So I definitely see more right-wing rhetoric being more crazier, and I definitely do see more uptick of, I won't say violence, but just hate in general. Because like I said, 250 years are coming. People are going to use the MAGA movement, going to use the Proud Boy rhetoric as a euphemism as America first or America pride. Again, and then Donald Trump's trying to do so much things next year that a lot of people who aren't a cis heterosexual white man is going to be looked as the opposite of what America is supposed to be. We're going to see that in the next couple of years, to be honest.
Yeah, that's crazy. Speaking of violence and rhetoric, um, you got to have a conversation with Charlie Kirk. I want to hear a little bit about that, and then what happened to him, and then what your thoughts were on his untimely passing.
Um, it's funny. A lot of people online gives this idea that Charlie Kirk was, and a lot of people on the right believes this idea that Charlie Kirk gave everyone the ability to come up and have a conversation with them, and he's able to debunk whatever they're saying or have a willful, willingful debate, which is complete BS. Because like I said, when I was part of the Unfuck America tour, which was a group of left-wing, liberal, leftist creators that came to debate Charlie Kirk, and also I think Dean and Parker was on there. I think I know Dean and Parker was also on there, and they actually had a tent themselves. And Charlie Kirk purposely sabotaged our event. So first of all, that already shows why are you against free speech? People are talking about how Charlie Kirk was about free speech, but there's evidence of him not wanting free speech on the other side. He had tremendously did the Texas A&M has attacked our event. At one point, our event was at this field, and they turned on the waters. The sprinklers out of nowhere during the day. Have you ever went to a college campus anywhere and sprinklers are turned on in the middle of the day? And I'm not talking about, right, they don't do that, especially
Yeah.
on the field, right? So
Yeah, because that's when people are the most active. They're walking around, they're doing things. Yeah, like that doesn't even make any sense. Like generally, you see it going on at nighttime or like late in the evening.
exactly. So it was a little troubling with that. Also Charlie Kirk kind of did some background research on all the creators that were coming. So we were like on the ban list. Like we weren't able to talk to him. The only reason why I was able to talk to him was because I was heckling him. I was heckling him to death. Like like if you were there, you was like that black guy, because I was the only black guy that was there.
Yeah.
That black guy was heckling the hell out of Charlie Kirk. And he noticed me and he's like, you know what? I assumed he thought I wasn't intelligent enough to spar with him.
Hmm.
So he was like, you know what? Let me show that I'm not scared to debate anyone from the Unfuck America tour and debate him. I was the only one there at the end. It was like 4 hours waiting to debate him. So once I was there and had
4 hours?
I was, yes. And it was extremely hot. First of all, people assume that Charlie Kirk cared for people. People will faint at Charlie Kirk events, which is why I find it weird why he even had it outside, was because it was already problematic way before his untimely death, was because
Yeah.
people were already fainting. It was extremely hot. We're talking about, mind you, this is Texas. He did it at Florida. And then we know climate change is a bitch. So we know that places that are not supposed to be as hot are hotter now. And we're having students in a hot sun trying to listen to a man and they're fainting. And he's over, and then people are trying to make him as a martyr, like he cared for people, but he knew this happened a lot, but couldn't do this indoors because he wanted to maximize how many people were there,
Yeah.
which again took away his safety over his appearance. He wanted to look bigger than he was, which the news are lying, talking about 3,000 people were at his event. When I was there, it was hundreds of people, but there was no damn well 3,000 students during a school day. Get the hell out of here. No way. But one of the things I do want to point was he does indoctrinate children. Like when I was there, we had children who were under the age of 5 who were supposed to be in school there listening to this man. Like I'm talking about, like, yes. And this is the troubling thing that people need to understand, that people assume that Charlie Kirk was just this individual who was just against what you want to say and try to debunk you or try to challenge what you say, but he was never challenging you. I honestly think he used the fuck out of ChatGPT. I honestly think he used the fuck out of AI because his rhetoric just seems because the way he talks, the way he moves, that this one man there's no way he has time to read that many books, do that many research when he's on the road for so many times. Like even when I do my research, like I couldn't even do a video today because I'm stuck doing so much research. So it's impossible to see this man going on podcasts, this man traveling so much and giving us rhetoric. And I seen him on one time talking about how ChatGPT is able to read you stuff and you're able to learn about it faster. This man was abusing ChatGPT. I know this for sure. I don't know this for sure. It's alleged, but just debating him he's very superficial. You assume he knows what he's talking about, but you find out he didn't. At one point, I asked him what was the executive order that brought up DEI because he loved talking about it, and you couldn't bring it up, which is weird to me. You didn't read the executive order that brought you DEI, but you hate DEI so much. I thought you knew what DEI was. So
Yeah.
this is troubling things. But at the end of the day, I don't see him as an individual who had conversations to have conversations. He wasn't no Socrates. Socrates was an individual who wanted to have a conversation and challenge you. He was an individual who wanted to disprove you as much as possible, no matter if he's lying or not.
Yeah. I know that he liked to definitely run from. I will say Parker gave him a lot of shit. Like every time he went against Parker, Parker would like completely whip him around. It just he always seemed super nervous. I get why he was like he ended up like blocking him from all of his tours and being able to talk because like when you saw that Jubilee event, like I mean that Jubilee video, Parker completely crushed Charlie. Like there wasn't it was so bad that Jubilee even had like their own separate video of Parker versus Charlie Kirk. Like
Yeah.
that's how good of a conversation
Honestly,
Parker had.
I was able to chill with Parker and Dean, and they're cool people. And I actually got to see their little process of like getting into it, like Dean chilling, Parker chilling, and they'll just go over topics and stuff like that. I mean, at
Mhm.
one point, when everyone assumed they were going to debate Charlie Kirk, they even asked me like, "Hey, like, what's your debate?" And then I gave it to them, ran down. They were like, "Honestly, that's a banger. That's a good one." You feel me? So that gave me a little more confidence. I am a little upset on Dean, showing so much sorrow to Charlie Kirk. But we could talk about that once we talk about Charlie Kirk's demise.
Yeah, actually, so I wanted to hear what your thoughts on that because, like, he has been painted as a martyr, and like I know everybody on here probably agrees, like, we never want anybody murdered over political violence, but like, they ended up celebrating the life of someone that caused so much division and so much hate. So like, I wanted to hear your thoughts on like, what exactly happened and what your feelings were when you heard the news.
First of all, honestly, a loss of life for anyone is tragic. I'm an individual who believes that capital punishment for anybody is wrong, and I'm a firm believer that no matter what law you broke, no matter what you did, I don't think capital punishment it should be allowed. And if I believe that, I don't believe that anyone who gets killed for political violence it's a good thing. But when you're in this realm, when you're in this type of industry, or yeah, in this type of society, that's something that comes with the territory. And he knew this. He's been in numerous interviews and said, "Oh, I have death threats," and this is what happens. You get what I'm saying? So I'm gonna sit here and say that I don't condemn or I don't not condemn what happened to him. I don't really care for it, only because as a black man, it's like asking how did you feel when the overseer died? You know what I'm saying? Like this is an
Yeah.
individual
Like,
that he pushed hateful rhetoric purposely. He looked in my face and told me that I cared more about race than he did after he's telling me black people weren't as intelligent as white people. So it's just like, how does one look at this man and say that, oh, his death hurts me? It doesn't hurt me, but I'm not giddy about it. And it's only fair to say that I cannot care about it. It's my right. If I'm celebrating, honestly, maybe that's weird, but if you want to do that, do that. But I'm not celebrating it and I'm not condemning it neither. And that's why I have some feelings for Dean crying about it, only because he's a cis heterosexual white man. And statistically, when you look at every rhetoric, not Donald Trump, Charlie Kirk has said, it's never against a cis heterosexual white man. It's always against anyone outside of that. So when Dean cries about this man, it's almost like he knew he was always protected under this man's rhetoric and he was never attacked. So he feels bad because it was just debating with this man. He was
Right.
never hurting from this man. So honestly, it's like, fuck it. Like, it doesn't matter to me that he's gone. But a loss of life is always sad for the other person. So his family's mourning. I hope they get over it and live a prosperous life. But I hope his name lives on for them. But I'm not celebrating no Charlie Kirk Remembrance Day.
Yeah, him being on put on the dollar coin or whatever it was that they wanted to do was like I was just like, okay, like listen.
I'm gonna stop paying taxes at this rate. Like,
Yeah, just mark exempt, and then when they try to collect, be like, no, I'm good. If you're
right.
gonna do this, like put Charlie Kirk on the dollar. Yeah.
Like,
I don't know. I think that I was, Chase and I definitely had a conversation about that. There was
I seen
no
that one, the shooting of Charlie Kirk. That was a good episode.
Yeah, yeah. It was just, I mean, it's very hard to find because, like, we brought up some of the videos too. Like, he was somebody that literally he said that Joe Biden should face the death penalty, right? He said that the Civil Rights Act should not have been passed and that it was like a regrettable part of history. Like, there's just a lot of things that you hear Charlie Kirk say, and you're just like, this man was very divisive and even like people were like no he was always trying to learn and bring people together and like the one thing I have a good friend that was a big he currently still is a big Republican. Like I was just like I was like go and look back at like the past month of Instagram posts, of Twitter posts, of YouTube videos, and look at the captions, look at the titles. There was never anything about unity. It was always like him trying to dunk on someone or like this clickbait material. And that's just who Charlie Kirk was. That was, and like I said, that doesn't, I'm not saying that I I am in favor of him dying or anything like that, but like he was a divisive person. It wasn't somebody that was actively looking for unity. So, I mean, like I said, at the end of the day, like, his passing, I never want anybody to die. I'm very curious to see how Turning Point continues without him because I think there's like intellectual property that just can't be displaced, right? Like if you take Joe Rogan's video and put like someone like Chase on there, he's not going to have like the same pull as Joe Rogan, at least not yet, right, Chase? Uh, but like when it comes to like intellectual property like that, like Turning Point without Charlie, I
Not
just
one
I
point.
don't see that being successful.
It-
It's just it's kind of interesting to see like, they were talking about like, now it's bigger and it's going to be bigger and better than ever. And I was like, is it though? Like
he
nobody's
was
going
the
to be able to
biggest.
replace. Yeah, I was like, nobody's going to be able to really replace Charlie. Charlie was, in his own sense, he was smart with what he did. He always managed to only debate college kids. And he always stayed away from debating people that actually knew what they were talking about for a good reason, because he knew that he couldn't win on the facts. So he went and preyed on uninformed kids.
And he
And
was in his prime too. That's another thing. He was in his prime. It wasn't like he
yeah,
was being molded. He was already molded for this. So now you would have to find someone who's just as good, or you can mold. If you try to mold someone as to Charlie Kirk, it takes too many years. That's what it takes too long to build another Charlie Kirk.
yeah, they're trying to. Have you seen the new Charlie Kirk, the person that they're
Terrible, terrible.
I'm blanking on his name. It's like Breland or something like that.
I can't remember neither. I seen a post of them comparing him to Harry Stenson, some shit like that. That shit was hilarious, but
Oh, don't disrespect Harry like that.
They all look they're very similar looking, I have to admit, all of the
yeah.
the types. But I do think it's a little strange to market yourself the way in which he is, of like, I'm the next Charlie Kirk. Like, I'm gonna pick up from his legacy. It's weird. It's strange. Like, if it's his wife saying that, okay, valid. But
Right.
like some random person that now we're like appointing to this point and he's gonna be the new one, it's like, I don't know, it's just very odd.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's going to be a big problem for them only because I think he's like 18 or something like that.
Yeah,
So it's just like
he's
he
young.
doesn't know much, or even if he knows, it's just only so much that he knows. And going to college campus, because he's going to 10 college campuses, people are going to challenge him. So
Yeah.
there's going to be things that he might not know as much. So, and once people trip him up, because it was hard to trip up Charlie Kirk, because he was able to finagle his way out. But when now you're dealing with a new individual where we don't know how intelligent he is, and I'm assuming he's not as intelligent as Charlie Kirk. So once we challenge that his intelligence, he's already going to go down for this, and it's going to make the right look bad. This is why they're going to keep looking for another Charlie Kirk. In fact, we've seen numerous people trying to do like with Charlie Kirk. Y'all heard about the Fearless Tour thing? When them going to Tennessee State and they got like ran out. It's an H.
Oh, I did. Yeah, they tried to do the whole DEI. They were like, DEI was a mistake, and they went on an HBCU campus that they didn't even have a permit for. And then they acted like the victim when they were removed. They were like, we were chased out. It's just like, no, police had to escort you out because you didn't have a permit.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's
that
just
was, I mean, that's, I feel like going to an HBCU and doing that is explicitly like you're not trying to unify people. It's like you're literally going there to be divisive, to get that reaction, and
Exactly.
then you could post these pictures where you know you wink and nod at it, and you're like, look at these people, right? Like
right.
it's a little ridiculous. And I also think the desiring people to attack you over Charlie Kirk is also another aspect of just weird.
Yeah.
It's why do you seek out those situations with other people? Like that's not supposedly what we're being told, right? It was about unity, it was about the truth. Well, that doesn't seem like unity and the truth. It seems like real life clickbait, you know?
Facts.
Exactly.
That's so true though. That's facts. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. Just that whole situation was so cringe. You know
Yeah.
what I think what frustrated me the most about it was that people gave it attention. They decided to swarm him. And I was just like, if they would have just left him alone, left those two guys alone, like nothing would have happened. They would have they knew what they were doing and it ended up working. And like what was frustrating was like seeing people actually react and like swarm around them. Because I was like, you can't give these guys attention. That's exactly what they're aiming for. And they elicited the reaction that they wanted, which was you got
Honestly,
people swarming around them.
honestly, I'm kind of excited that they did that. Was only because first they only showed why Charlie Kirk has never done that. Charlie Kirk was intelligent enough to not know and to know that I'm not gonna go to an HBCU and do these challenges. It's gonna cause a ruckus. And for these people to come up here and do that, it only shows that they think that they can do whatever they want. And for these black students to come and show them, yeah, like we don't want you here. Get out of here. Like that's their territory. That's their campus. They don't want you here. I'm so glad that they did that. I can see why you said that. Because people are using that video and is now trying to, dogma their asses. So I understand what you're saying that because now people are using that and trying to use it as a rhetoric,
Yeah.
saying black people can't be civilized when it comes to debating, da 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 shit. And it does hurt, but there's another side of me that just says, "Oh, I wish I was there," because that's great. It's because it's time to show these people like we're not going to be shutting up. Donald Trump trying to say that Antifa is now a terrorist organization and he wants people to die down their rhetoric. Fuck that. I honestly think that we need to be more aggressive what we're saying. I don't think that calling ICE fucking fascist is killing ICE people. In fact, no ICE agency has been killed yet. So
Yeah.
you mean like yeah, well honestly when you're in law enforcement, there's always a risk of that. So
Right.
yeah, so at the end of the day, so it's just like we have to understand that these rhetorics are not harmful. Us being loud about what we want to do is not harming anybody. It's just showing that if this keeps going on, it's going to get crazier and crazier. I think so, and I know I'm just rambling, but Tupac, he said that you can only go so far. You know, you can ask someone for a piece of bread and they'll tell you they give it to you, and then you wait, they don't give it to you. Then you ask them again, they don't give it to you. Then you ask them more aggressively, and then they'll tell you they'll give it to you, but then they don't give it to you. What's next? What happens after you ask aggressively, you ask nicely, you attack them. You now do what you have to do. And that's what's happening from both sides, the right and the left, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. Did you notice how they managed to walk away unscathed, whereas, Charlie Kirk shows up to a Republican state in a Republican university and a Republican event and ends up getting killed versus couple couple guys trying to evoke a, an emotional reaction at an HBCU. They managed to walk away without being violently attacked. Like I
Okay,
just
you said that.
I just thought that was interesting because like nobody was talking about the fact that they were not harmed, nobody was hit, nobody was bleeding or anything when they were walking away. Literally, that guy was walking, holding a camera up, like with everybody behind, all the students
Yeah.
behind him, yelling at him, but he was never attacked. He was never hurt by anyone. And I was just
Right,
like,
it's for the optics. It's for optics. And I'm glad you say that because Utah have very shitty gun laws. Like that
yeah,
individual is able to do what he can do because of them shitty gun laws. In fact, I
yeah,
think there was three mass shootings that happened yesterday. One in North Carolina, one in Michigan, and one in Texas.
yeah,
And first of all three of them, and I know I'm rambling, but all three of them were former military and military members. They had military training.
they were
And
veterans.
yeah. And what's scary about that is that when we had that shooting with Charlie Kirk and they found out that his partner was a trans or the trans that did the shooting at the church and I forgot where but sad things but people were automatically trying to say that trans people were the problem, that trans people made up a certain number of mass shooters. But then when we look at these last three shooters, all of them part of the military, no one in the right is making the connection. 26% of mass shooters had military experience. 26%. That's more than a quarter. But no one wants to talk about that. I'm not sitting here and saying that military experience equals mass shooting. No, 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 no. I'm just saying that the right loves to pick and choose their rhetoric. When it was trans shooters, they were saying that trans people have a connection to mass shooters. But now when we see that it's military individuals, there's no connection there. And
I
it
know
just
nobody
goes to
talks
show that
about it.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And this is why I say like it's not even a rhetoric that people are saying that causing these things. It's the system itself. What happened in Michigan happened because there was a military vet who didn't have great health care, who lost his job, who was in his brink. The individual in North Carolina that shot up that pier, RIP to all of them. He had PTSD.
Yeah, I saw that.
Like
When that happened, what, yesterday, right? Or was that
yesterday.
earlier today? Yeah, yeah. They shot up a pier. Like that was I couldn't even imagine. Like just driving up to a
PTSD.
pier on the boat and just being like, yeah, I'm just,
Nobody's talking about it in the right though. Nobody's talking about it in the right.
I
Like I,
know.
I, I do this for a living. I take my time to look at what the right says and I debunk them. I didn't do any videos today, but I took the time to look at these videos. Nobody wants to talk about these situations. So it's just ridiculous when we have this conversation and then that happens.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I feel like when we confront these issues, I think sometimes it reveals a lot more than they want to have a conversation about, right? Like, why does America experience these mass shootings at this rate at which we do? And, we like to pick and choose all these mass shootings, but, when it's gang violence in some neighborhood, we don't care. Yet
Yeah,
all of those things are impacting our people, the average American citizen who's just walking in the street, right? Like every single one of those instances impacts them. And sometimes when, for example, with the veterans, you you not giving and catering to the needs of veterans in the way that you need to leads to more situations, just as any other political group or any other group, right? Like, I mean, I think we could even argue like with the white men who, are nine times out of ten usually Although, in America, it's equal opportunity gun violence. So,
Right.
but the point is, I do think that there's mental health concerns for men at large. Men, I think, suffer and will not admit that they suffer at, a much higher rate. And I think, we separate all these issues out and they're all kind of connected. It's like if you don't solve one thing, another thing's going to come up and it's going to be worse, for you not even having resolved the issue.
Yeah.
But
That's something that was so factual. In fact, I actually want to bring up the statistics. Majority of gun violence is suicide. So that shows how mental health is so important. People assume that when we talk about gun violence or people dying from gun violence, it's people taking someone's life, it's someone robbing, it's any of those. But majority of that is people taking guns that are in their home and is using it against themselves because that's the problem. That's why mental health is a problem. That's why we have these mass shootings or these people doing these things. Because when we talk about mental health, it's not important. But then we have people sit here and say that Donald Trump cares, but then he's removing mental health initiatives. He's removing hotlines for veterans, removing hotlines for the LGBTQ. And then you're surprised when they want to commit mass shootings. Like it's everybody. When you remove these things, it affects people. So no, I agree with you tenfold when you say that.
Yeah. Um, I would love to continue this conversation for forever. We like to keep these a little bit short, but is there anything else that you want to end on? Anything that you want to promote before we end up wrapping this up? Because we definitely want to have another conversation with you at another time. Because you seem very informed. You obviously have a wealth of knowledge. So we definitely want to keep in touch with you and like everything that you're doing. And we want to continue to grow our relationship. But before we go, is there anything else that you wanted to say that you wanted to talk about before we end up leaving?
No, first of all, I do appreciate you and Chase for having me here. You guys were great hosts. It felt great to express myself. Again, this is like the first time I've been on a podcast to talk about politics and stuff. So this has been great. Progressive movers, you guys are lit. I do have a book that's coming out next year in May. It's called The Little Black Book. We're still getting some things edged out, so more information on the way. You can also check me out on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Simple Black Theory. That's together at Simple Black Theory. But other than that, I appreciate you guys so much for this.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you for coming on. Chase, I always appreciate you for coming on as well.
of course.
Love hearing your intake, but we appreciate you. Like I said, we'll definitely be in touch, but thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Talk to you later.
All right, peace.
Bye.